Oneil Mobile is an application that brings the power of RSSQL or Oneil Cloud into the palm of your hands. The Oneil Mobile application was designed to run on the latest technology, whether it's an Android device or an Apple device. As we get started in the Oneil Mobile section, we're going to cover the following objectives. We'll learn how to set up your Oneil Mobile device. We'll review the various Oneil Mobile features. We'll perform record center operations. We'll send tasks to Oneil Mobile. We'll complete pick lists, validate work order actions such as pickup or deliveries. We'll create refile lists. We'll use the location audit function. We'll demonstrate the destruction validation by location, as well as other advanced features available in the Oneil Mobile application. Before you can use Oneil Mobile, however, you'll need to make sure that it's properly set up in your record center. You'll want to make sure that Oneil Mobile is installed on your web server and that your web server has an SSL certificate, as Oneil Mobile relies on SSL for encryption of all data that goes to and from the scanner. Then you'll want to create a QR code that includes your record center information. This is going to include the URL to access your Oneil Mobile server, as well as the GUID that will be available in the record center configuration application in your server. You can quickly create a QR code by visiting our website at the link on the screen. And then finally, you'll want to install the Oneil Mobile application on your device. This application can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store, depending on the device that you're going to use. Additionally, you can download an APK file from the OneilSoft website. Once you have the application installed on your device, you'll want to log in and then authorize your device. The authorization can be done through administration, setup, device authorization, and will only need to occur the initial time that the device logs into the system. Now let's take a look at actually going through and setting up a device. For the purposes of our demonstration and training, I'm using a Zebra TC55 scanner. Now, once I have the scanner powered on, charged up, and connected to my wireless network or connected to a cellular network, I can open up the Play Store. And once I have the Play Store open, I'm simply going to search for the Oneil Mobile application. So I'll tap in Google Play. I'm going to type in Oneil Mobile and select that. Once there, I'll be presented with the option to open up Oneil Mobile, and I can complete my installation. It's going to prompt me as part of the process to accept various things, such as permissions to use the location, the camera, the device information. You'll just hit accept and go through the installation. Once the installation is completed, you'll be able to open the application and begin using it. The first time you open the application, you'll need to go ahead and scan that QR code that we created. Again, what this will do is populate the URL that's going to be used by the device, as well as the record center GUID. Once you have that information, you can simply enter your username and password into the device, and it will validate you against your network. So in my case, I'm connecting through a local test environment, so I'm going to click OK there, and it's going to proceed to give me a few different prompts. So here it's letting me know it's the first time I'm connecting to the server, so I'm going to hit OK to allow that connection. And then once it goes through, it'll give me any additional prompts that happen here. So here I've made it to the device unauthorized stage. This means that the device was able to select to actively log into the system, but it recognizes that it has not yet been authorized within my system. To authorize that device, we're going to return to RSSQL administration, and we'll log in, then go to setup, device authorization, and in here we'll see our device. So the second line here, you can see that it's currently authorized no. I'm going to double click on that record, and we can take a look at some of the settings here. So here it's got the record that has been created. I'm going to look down under authorized and change the authorized from no to yes. I may also want to add a friendly name to the device, so I'm going to call mine the TC55. And if you wanted to add any notes regarding the device, you could do that as well. You do have the option also to turn on GPS, so I'm going to go ahead and enable that, which will activate location services on my device the next time I log in and allow the system to record GPS points that that device goes to throughout the day. So I'll choose yes there. I can also predefine the idle timeout for my devices. So if I wanted to lock it at 10 minutes before the device will lock out if it's not being used, I can set that here, as well as being able to associate it to a warehouse if you have warehouses set up in your record center. I'm going to go ahead and press OK here. And now I'm going to return to our device. So now that I've got the device up on the screen here, you can see it's still at that device unauthorized window. I'm simply going to hit retry, and it's going to check to verify that it's been authorized to log into my RSSQL database. Once it logs in, it's going to do some basic checks within the system to look for work. So here again, this is the first time logging in, so I'm prompted to accept the potential charges that may be associated here. You will definitely want to talk to your business development representative prior to your use of Oneil Mobile to get an understanding of the licensing that's associated with it. Once I click accept, it's going to go through and it's going to look for any details about my user, including the function access that I have for Oneil Mobile, any assignments that are pending, that are waiting to be downloaded to the device. And here you can see it's successfully logged in, and it's telling me right on the screen there are no assignments that are currently loaded for my user. Now, just as we look at some basic navigation of the application, we're going to go through and you'll notice that there is a menu option on the left. There is a refresh button here, which will prompt the system to look for work again. And then there's another menu on the right-hand side. So we're going to start by using the main menu, and you're going to click on that, and this will again list out any application features that you have access to. Operations is generally where you're going to be operating if you are a warehouse employee. So if you're working in the warehouse or you're a driver, most of your work is operations. And if you log into Oneil Mobile as a standard user, you're immediately going to be presented with the operations window. Quick Order is an area of the software that can be used by your customer. So they can log in, they can look up inventory, they can review web orders, they can even place new web orders when they log into the device. This is the default presentation of the application if you log in as a web user. You can also view web order details, complete item lookup, perform test scans, review settings within the application, or even view the online help for the application. And lastly, if you want to log out, you can choose the logout option, or you can simply hit the back arrow on your scanner and that will prompt you to log out of the system. So one thing that we'll take a quick look at here is under settings. These are areas, again, you'll typically go into them the initial time that you begin using the device, but there are some defaults that you can set up in here. One of the common settings, if you're using a Zebra device, is found under Scan Settings, and specifically you'll see Zebra Scan Settings. Here you have the option to enable pick list mode, which is very similar to the old precise mode from the RS mobile devices. So this will just make sure that as you're scanning, the scan that registers is going to be the one that's closest to the dot that appears when you press the scan button. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on pick list mode. Otherwise, if you have a two-dimensional scanner, it will be able to scan anything within the area that is covered by the imager. You also have the ability in the scan settings here to enable different fonts. So if there are different types of barcodes that you want to read, you can make sure that their font set is enabled. I'm going to return back to the main screen and we'll take a look at a couple of other options. So things like turning on the sounds, you can turn those off or on the device here. If you're using a mobile phone, you might want to connect a USB or a Bluetooth connected scan head, so you can turn that on here and allow for that. Or you can even set your camera scan settings if you're using a mobile phone and using the camera instead of an actual scanner. I'll click back to return to the main menu, and then again there's some other settings here. So if I'm using web orders, I can determine the default search, so how far back I want it to look, whether or not it should show just my orders. Typically these are settings that a web user would go through and adjust. And then below you have go to next options. So go to next is enabled if you turn on the device GPS for your mobile device, and this allows you to preset the options that will be selected if you use the go to next function. You'll see that as we work through this section. So I'm going to go back to my main menu here by clicking on the back arrow to the left of settings. And then we'll take a look at some of the other functionality. So if I go back into our menu here, again, if I was to go into quick order, that's going to allow me to look up information. Web order details is going to allow me to review web orders. Item lookup is something that you can use to quickly look up information about a record. And test scan is a way that you could test a barcode. So let's take a quick look at that. So if you have a barcode that you're trying to scan and it doesn't seem to be reading correctly, you can use test scan. So here I've got a couple of boxes next to me. If I want to verify the way the barcode is reading, once I'm in test scan, I can simply scan the barcode and it will show me on the device the barcode that was read and how it was read. So here you can see that it's read two different barcodes. They're both reading as 8 characters, which matches what I would expect to see on the screen. So if you ever have struggles with a barcode just not reading, scanning this barcode using test scan will read it and confirm that it's actually reading the way that you would expect to see it on the site. And then once I've completed my test scanning, I'm going to go back to the main menu. And we're going to take a look at some other settings here. So we're going to start off actually over in operations, and we're just going to again walk through some of the functionality. So once you're logged in, you'll notice at the bottom of the screen here you have the ability to start Record Center operations. So this is where you're going to go for moving records. So you're going to scan a location, scan a box, maybe scan a file into that box. All of that work is done under Record Center operations. The icon up at the top here for refreshing will check with the database to see if there's any new work assigned, as well as allowing you to download any new assignments that have been sent to you. And then the menu on the right hand side, if you click on that, will take you to some different areas of the software. So if you go to scan refile, this is where you'll be able to create refile lists on your device. If you click load tote, this is where you'll be able to scan items that are going inside of a tote. You can create a 2-dimensional barcode by using the create RCO label. You can perform a location audit or sort items by work order or complete a destruction validation by location. You can even create a new work order or use refile check, all by going to that menu on the right hand side of the screen. So once you've done major selection, it will take you into where you need to go and you'll be able to do your work. So one of the things that you are typically going to start with when you're using a scanner is going to be an initial pickup of records. So what I'm going to do now is jump over to operations. We're going to put together a work order real quick to pick up these boxes that are sitting next to me. So you'll see how to create the work order, but also assign it to your mobile device and then complete the work. So I'm going to switch over to my desktop here for a moment and open up operations. Now from here I'm going to go into my work order grid and I'm going to click on the delivery work order. I'm going to choose my account and then I'm going to confirm the address information of where I'm picking it up. I'll choose the priority of my work order and then I'm going to enter in that I'm picking up 2 not itemized containers. So this would represent a customer calling in saying, Greg, I have 2 boxes, can you come and pick them up? Or potentially a web order that was submitted for a couple of items to be picked up that was converted to a work order. Once I've got the work order set up for pickup, I can click save and it's now in my database. Now if I'm picking up, I don't need to complete a pick list or anything like that. So I'm simply going to use the route ops to RS Mobile, which is also the equivalent of routing ops to Oneil Mobile. And this will bring up an assignment screen that you're already used to seeing if you've been using RS Mobile in the past. The key difference here is when you're doing assignments for Oneil Mobile, you must check a user or a user list. There is no Oneil Mobile device that will show up here, so the device listing here is only going to list RS Mobile devices. The user will allow the work to be downloaded to either an Oneil Mobile or an RS Mobile device. So in this case, I'm going to assign it to the user Greg, and once I've done that, I'm going to click OK, and now that session has been created and is available for download. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of this screen and minimize and take us back to our device. Now, once I'm at the device, I can simply, since I'm already logged in, I'm going to hit the refresh button. And it's going to go and check to see if there's any work that's been assigned to me. Now, if I wasn't logged into the database already, when I log into Oneil Mobile, it's always going to do a check when I log in to see if there's any work to be downloaded. unless there's already work on the device. But again, we'll take a look more closely at that as we move throughout this section. So here you can see there's my assignment. It's a route operations that was assigned to me. I can click the download button and it will go ahead and download the work order information to my device. Once I have the work order on my device, you'll be able to see some key information about it. You can see the work order number, you can see the account it was for, as well as their description, when the work is required by, and some detail about the type of work. So we're doing an unitemized pickup at the following address, and we happen to put this work order on the south route. Now you'll notice here you've got two options. You've got assignments as well as map. So if I just swipe left here, I'll be taken over to the map view, or I can click on the word map. And here it's going to present me with a map of where my item is. So if I back out here a little bit or zoom out, I can see where my work order is going to be serviced based on the map. If I had multiple work orders, you'd see multiple pins demonstrating where each of those orders are. Those pins are also color coded depending on whether or not they're approaching their due time. So they're required by date and time. So in this case, my pin is black, which means I'm good. I'm ready to go. I'm not approaching my required by date and time. Once I get within 90 minutes of my required by date and time, that pin is going to change to yellow. Once I get to 30 minutes or less, or even get to being late with my order, that pin is going to change to red. So I'm actually going to swipe back to the left, and I'm going to go back, or swipe right rather. Oops. I'm going to actually tap on my assignments there because I can't swipe within the map there. So once I return to my assignments, I can simply tap on the work order, and now it will bring me inside the work order and allow me to continue to do the work. So once I'm in the work order, I can see more information about the device or more information about the order. I can see the work order information, more detail about the address, and here you'll notice the address is a hyperlink as well as the phone number. So if I'm using a mobile device that has wireless connectivity or cellular connectivity, I could actually tap on the address and it will bring up navigation over in Google Maps and allow me to actually navigate to the location. And then once that mapping has come up, I can actually simply hit directions or start to begin my navigation, or I can just hit the back arrow on the bottom of my mobile device to return to the work order. Likewise, if I tap the phone, it would allow me to call the customer based on the phone number that was associated with the work order to let them know that I'm on the way or running late, or ask if it's okay that I get there a little bit early. That information can be handled directly from a phone or a device as long as it has phone service on it. Now, you'll see that there's pickups at the top. So one of the unique things about Oneil Mobile is that it's only going to display the types of things that you can do on the work order. So in this case, this work order was for a pickup. There was no delivery on it, so you won't even see delivery as an option. So I'm simply going to swipe left and I can choose pickups, or again, I could actually tap up at the top where it says details and be taken to the details, or tap on pickups and be taken to the pickup screen. Now, once I'm in the pickups, obviously I'm going to do this at the customer facility. I'm going to simply scan the barcodes of the items to pick up. So I'll scan the first one, and it's going to register a couple of things. You can see right on the device, it says it's an unitemized pickup. You'll also see a green plus sign on the right-hand side, again indicating that's in addition to this work order. And then I'll scan the second record as well. Now I've got my two boxes scanned. As soon as I completed the number of scans, you'll notice the Go to Next button showed up. That's the system's way of saying it looks like you've completed the majority of the work on this. Do you want to jump to the next work order? We're going to again address that a little bit later, but for now I want to cover a couple of other things that I can do with the device. So once I scan a record, you can see that it shows the barcode of the record, and I can see right there that it's a hyperlink. So if I click on that, it will actually go look up that item in the database to see if it exists. And in this case, these are two unitemized boxes. They're brand new to the system. No data entry was done. So it's saying no results found. But if data entry had been done, if that box already existed in the system, then you would actually see information about the item itself. Once I've scanned the records, I'm going to tap on the sign button to allow the end user or the customer to sign for that work order. So here I would go to the customer, I would maybe enter in their name, and if there were any signature notes, I could enter those as well. And then I'm going to have the customer go ahead and sign right on the device. Once I've done that, I can click Save, or if there were multiple signatures that I was going to be capturing, the menu in the top right there allows you to check the Sign for All option, which would apply this signature to any of the work being completed on the work order. Once I'm done, I'm going to click Save, and I'll be taken back to the work order screen on the device. Now, once I'm here, you'll notice that my Sign By button is now green and checked, as well as the Receipt button is green and checked. This indicates that a signature has been recorded against the pickups section on this particular work order. So from here, I can do a couple of things. What I may want to do is go in and take a look at the receipt. So if I tap on Receipt, this will take me to a screen where I can do a couple of things. One, I can simply view the receipt directly on my mobile device, or if I'm using a Zebra ZQ310 printer, I can actually print out a hard copy of that receipt. So I'm going to go ahead and create all receipts. I'll include a summary as well. If I wanted to, if I had that connection through a wireless network or a cellular network, I could actually upload the receipt immediately after creation. But one of the things that typically will correspond with use of Oneil Mobile is going to be the ability to upload and download while you're on the road. So again, if you have that functionality, you may not bother with the receipt upload immediately. You may allow that to happen when you actually upload the work order from the device. So for now, I'm just going to check the two options there to create all receipts, which would create a receipt separate for pickup validations, delivery validations, materials or services that were on the work order. And then I'll include that summary as well. And what I want to do to actually print out that hard copy is I'm going to click on Update. And from here, I can choose the printer that I'm going to use. So here I've already connected my ZQ310 printer. I'm going to simply hit OK. And that's going to send the receipt information out to the printer. So it's going to start generating the receipt. And in just a few moments, we'll see a printout come from the mobile device. And there you can hear the printer printing out the receipt. I can then tear that receipt off and provide it to the customer. Likewise, when I upload the scanner later on, it will go through and send that information back up into the database. So here it's giving me a visual confirmation of that receipt as well. I can click OK to close it out. And then I can either choose Go to Next to return to my next work order, or in this case, since this is the only work order that I had, what I'm going to actually do is finish my route. So I'm going to drive back to the warehouse, and once I get to the warehouse, I'm going to offload the boxes from my truck. So we're going to switch gears a little bit and move over towards a couple of settings that you can use and take advantage of with the Oneil mobile device when you return items back to the warehouse. Now, once the driver gets back to the warehouse, it's up to your operational practices as to whether the driver is going to offload those boxes from the truck and put them into an incoming holding area, or if that's done by warehouse staff. But over here you'll see I've got my couple of boxes, I've put them on a pallet, and what I want to do is scan them to a location. Now, one of the features that's built into Oneil Mobile is accessible by the menu on the upper right hand side, and it's this option called Refile Check. So when you tap on Refile Check, it's going to actually show you any items that are on work orders and whether or not they've been scanned into locations. So as we can see here, we've got the two items that are showing. They're showing in Refile Check, but they're only showing association with a work order and not a location. So I'm going to go ahead and exit Refile Check by clicking the back arrow. Here it's just telling me, hey, not all items that have been picked up have yet been scanned to a location. I'm going to hit OK because we're going to actually take care of that process now. Once I click OK, it's going to take me back to the main menu of Oneil Mobile, and I can click the Start Record Center Operations at the bottom of the screen. Again, Start Record Center Operations is where you're going to perform movement of records or inserting files into boxes, things like that. So here I'm going to grab my temporary location code. So I have an iHold location that I'm using for my incoming. I'm going to scan that location, and then I'm simply going to scan the boxes into that location. You'll notice as you complete the scanning, the scanner itself is letting me know that I've scanned a container. It's also letting me see that I've scanned a location. So if I were to scan a file folder, it would label that code as file folder directly on the screen. Once I've completed those scans, I can hit the up arrow here to upload the records. If there were other things that I wanted to complete during the Record Center operations process, for example, an automatic alternate code, I could hit the menu in the upper right-hand corner and use one of the features there, whether it's the auto alt code, auto item processes, if I was doing reassignment or needed to add a prefix or suffix, I could do that from here. In this case, these boxes have just a single barcode, so I'm just going to tap out of that screen, and then we're going to close out of our Record Center operations by hitting the back arrow at the top left, and now we're on our main screen. So on the main screen here, we can see the work order detail. We can also see the location scan. And if we were to return to that refile check menu now, by tapping on the menu on the top right and then checking refile check, now we can see that both of these boxes are actually registering that they're in location. So this is a great way to have your drivers confirm that everything that they pick up at the customer site has actually been scanned at least to an incoming holding area. Again, for this to work, you have to have the work orders still on the device before you upload the work order and the Record Center ops. So once I'm done here, I'm going to click the back arrow, and now I'm going to actually upload the work. One other thing to point out here real quickly, on the work order, you'll notice the pin color has changed. So it's no longer a black pin, it's now gray, indicating that the work has been completed. You'll also notice that since there's work on my scanner, I've got the work order, I've got the Record Center ops. Just to the right of operations here, you'll see an up arrow. And this arrow allows you to upload everything on the device. So this will upload both my Record Center ops and my work order. So I'm going to go ahead and tap the up arrow there and hit upload, and it will confirm that I want to upload everything. And in a moment, it will have uploaded the data from the work order or from the device, and all that's left is a work order remnant. Now the work order remnant is related to Oneil dispatch. It's also a way that the driver can identify if they have multiple orders on their device, which ones have been completed and which ones have not. It's historical information, and in fact, if I tap on it, it'll tell me that this work order has already been removed from the device and is just being displayed for information. So I can hit OK if I want to stay there. Otherwise, I can press delete, and it will delete that order from the device. So again, the work has already been uploaded and processed in the system. I'm just clearing off that informational bit from the device itself. Now, because I've gone through and uploaded everything, I'm using RSSQL or Oneil Cloud's RS Mobile Automated Processing Service. I can actually use a couple more features within the application. So I see that there's my 2 items in my location. If I wanted to confirm that, I might go ahead and use the menu on the top right. I could choose a location audit, and I could go through and scan the location. And what this is going to do is it's going to go look up that location and tell me how many boxes it can hold, how many boxes are currently in it, what type of holding area it is, and what objects are currently in that location. So in this case, you can see there's 2 containers. If I was to scan a container, it's going to confirm that it's there. If I scan the next one, it's going to confirm as well. If I was to scan a box that's not in this location, it will register that it's a container, but instead of showing a date and time of confirmation, you'll see the word unexpected. So to do that, I'm just going to quickly demonstrate. I happen to be right in front of a rack, so I'm going to scan a box that's clearly on the shelf and should not be in this location. When I scan that barcode, you're going to see that it's found that it's an unexpected item. Now, in the event that that item actually was in this location, you'll again see that there's an up arrow just to the right of location audit. I could tap that and it will update that location with everything I've scanned, which would move this box that I just scanned from the shelf into this holding area. Now, obviously, we don't want to do that, so I'm just going to click the back arrow to go through and return to the main screen. Or again, something else that I can do with Oneil Mobile that you couldn't with RS Mobile is you'll see that there's an unexpected item. Now in the RS Mobile days, you had to go to connected tools, you had to complete an item lookup, so you had to actually leave the location audit to go look up the item. In Oneil Mobile, I can simply tap on the barcode for that unexpected item and get some detail about it. So I can see that this particular box belongs to account 1000, which is my big bank account. Its status is currently in. I'll see the location is showing that it's in a particular shelf location. and I know that it's there, so I don't have to worry about making any changes. Or again, if it really was in this holding area, I would definitely want to upload that scan so that I could see it registered there. Now I'm going to go ahead and return back to the main screen, and we'll go through the next step in the process. So I've got my items in my incoming holding area, and what I want to do is put them on the shelf. So again, I'm going to return to Record Center Ops, and from Record Center Ops, just like you've done with RS Mobile, or even if you were using the PDT 3100 before this, you're going to scan the location and then scan the boxes. So here I conveniently can turn around and I'm right in my Record Center, and here you'll see that I've got an open location. So I've got 2 boxes here. I'm going to go ahead and take my boxes, move them from my temporary location, and stick them on the shelf. Once they're up on the shelf, I can go ahead and scan my location and scan my 2 boxes. And as always, if you're not sure if you scanned it, scan it again. It's not going to hurt to scan it multiple times. It's better off that you do that than to just think, yeah, I scanned it, only to realize later on that you never actually scanned that box to the location. But again, here on the device, you're going to see every scan that you've done. So here you can see the container scan, and then you'll see the dual scan of that box 66. So you'll be able to see that. What will happen in the system is it's going to record the fact that it moved from the incoming holding area over to this shelf location. And for that box that I scanned twice, it's going to show move activity, and then it'll show inventory activity. And we can take a look at that a little bit later. That's something that you would find in the activity grid, or by going and looking up the container and viewing information about it. Once I've scanned everything into location, I can again hit the up arrow, assuming I have wireless or cellular connectivity, and that's going to upload that information. So I'm going to go ahead and upload that. It's going to communicate with my Oneil mobile server. It's going to pass that information into the database. It'll be processed by the RS Mobile Processing Service. And what that allows me to do, in particular, if I'm going through and putting boxes away, I can use some of those features on the device to double check my work. So again, if I'm emptying a pallet and I have a temporary location that's associated with that pallet, I could use that location audit feature to verify what's going on. So again, now that my upload is complete, I can see that the assignments are done. It actually went out and checked to see if there was any more work for me. So what I want to do is I want to leverage the fact that I've got location audit directly on my Oneil mobile device. So if I had a pallet that had boxes on it that I just emptied, they were in this temporary holding location, I can use the location audit feature again to check on that location. So you'll remember when we checked it earlier, there were 2 boxes showing in it, and in fact it still shows the old location that was scanned there. I'm just going to do a new scan of that location, and here it's just confirming that you want to requery the database. I'll hit yes, and so here once I've scanned that iHold location again, we can see that the quantity is now changed to 0 because those boxes have been moved into that location. I can safely return my temporary location cone or pallet card or whatever you use to track those pallets to the main part of the warehouse where it can be reused for another purpose. So definitely a good feature that you can use to verify that everything that you moved has gone onto the shelf. It also allows you to address any issues that may arrive that much sooner within the Record Center. So other things that we might want to look at while we're out in the warehouse would be, again, through that menu. So you've got the ability to scan your refile list, you've got the location audit, we've got the sort items by work orders, different things like that. We'll actually go back a screen and go back to our main menu and use the item lookup concept. So here we've got item, we've got the last one that we looked at. If I'm in item lookup, I can scan a barcode. So if I scan a barcode on the shelf, it's going to go through, look up that item within my database, tell me what its refile location, what its current shelf location is. If there was contents information or long descriptive information or even file folders in the box, you would be able to choose those from the 3 grayed out buttons at the bottom. Now the fact that those buttons are grayed out for this particular box tells me that there is no long description data entry or contents or contained in items, whether it's file folder or a type of tape. So we're going to go ahead and return back to our operations screen. So we've covered at this point the ability to send a work order to the mobile device. We've covered the pickup of records. We created a receipt. We captured a signature before doing that. We even printed out the receipt to the ZQ310. Once we completed that process, we brought those boxes into the warehouse and scanned them into a temporary holding location. And we used Refile Check to confirm that everything that we picked up at the customer site was scanned into the warehouse. Once that was completed, we went through the process of actually shelving the item. We put the boxes on the shelf, we scanned the location, and we scanned each one of the boxes. And then after all of that was completed, we were able to upload that data directly into the database. We didn't have to go through and make any changes or adjustments. The system processed it, again, on the assumption that you're using the RS Mobile Processing Service, and then we were able to continue on with our work. We even used the location audit functionality to verify that our temporary holding location was now empty because we've moved the boxes to the shelf and the system registered that change. With that, we're going to take a look back at some other things that we can do. We'll go through the delivery process, and we'll also pick up on refile activity and things like that. So let's jump back into the Record Center. All right, so now we're back in our Record Center. We're going to take a look at some of the next options that we can look at. So while we were going through that process, a web order happened to come in. It was converted to a work order by our customer service team. And what we're going to do is actually look up that work order. So we're going to go to the work order grid, and I'm going to query up today's work orders. And here we can see there's a delivery work order. If I wanted to take a look at it, I can open up that work order and I could take a look at the items that are on it. So in this case, I know there happen to be file folders that are part of the work order, and I can see the listing of those items there. Now, certainly for somebody who's doing picking, they don't necessarily need to open the work order or do anything like that. They have a couple of ways that they can create a pick list. One is simply doing that directly from the work order grid. So here I can query up the work orders that need to be pulled, whether it's one or many for one account or multiple accounts. And from here I can use either the options menu and choose pick list and choose one of the options here. So print all items is going to just allow me to print out a copy of the pick list. All items to RS Mobile will also allow me to send all items to Oneil Mobile, or I could use selected items to pick and choose which items to send. The other way of doing this is using the icon on the window here, the pick list to RS Mobile, which again will also allow me to send the items to RS Mobile. So what I'm going to do is with my work order marked, I'm going to choose pick list to RS Mobile. Here I'm going to go ahead and give my pick list a description. So maybe I'm going to label this as urgent pick list. This information will be passed to the user who's using the device out in the warehouse. If I needed to make any additional notes, I could do that here. And then again, Greg is going to be my user, so I can either just type in the name, or I could click on the drop down and select from any standard users in my database. So I'm going to just double click on Greg. Again, remember, if you're using Oneil Mobile, you're going to send all assignments to either a user or a user list. If you're using a user list, the first user on that list to download the record is the one who's going to get the work assigned. So I'm going to click OK here, and now the pick list has been created and is available for the user Greg to download. So again, I'm just going to close out of here. We'll minimize our screen and return over to our device. And once we're in our device, we can go ahead and download the assignment. Now, just to show you again the behavior, if you click on the refresh icon here, it's going to check for new work. If you were to log out of the application and log back in, it will check for new work automatically. Also, anytime you're uploading information on the device, if all of the information is uploaded, it will also perform a check for new work at that point in time. So I'm going to click the refresh button here, and it's going out, it's checking assignments, and it's found my urgent pick list. So here again was that description we set up when we sent it over from operations. And we're going to click download, and that will pull the refile list, or sorry, the pick list down to my device. So here you can see a new section that's labeled pick list. If I have multiple pick lists on my device, it will list them all out with their title, as well as the number of items on the pick list. To begin performing work on the pick list, you're simply going to tap on the pick list, and it will present to you similar as it did in the RS Mobile environment. So it's going to sort the items based on location order. So it's going to send me to the closest location first and then the subsequent locations afterwards. Here again, you'll see similar detail to what you saw in RS Mobile. However, there is a difference that's available to you. If I wanted to see additional information about a record, I can again tap on that barcode that's hyperlinked, and it's going to look up that item in the database. So here I can see the details of file folder 80. So I can see that I'm looking for a file folder with a description of Neil Armstrong. It has an alternate code associated with it. It's got some custom dates and custom fields entered into the system. So a unique thing about Oneil Mobile versus RS Mobile is that you're going to see any data that's associated with the particular item that you're looking for, which is definitely handy if the details of a record are stored in a user-defined field, or maybe the contents or the long description of the record, versus RS Mobile where you're limited to only the alternate code and short description. So with this information, now when I get to the location, I have a better chance of finding the record because I have all the data in my hands. Now if I hit the back arrow there, again, it's going to take me to my pick list just like before in RS Mobile or even with the PDT-3100. When you're completing a pick list, we assume that you're going to follow the order on the screen and you're simply going to scan the item that's highlighted in blue. One thing that you may want to remember is over in the menu on the top right here, you have the ability to turn off Enforce Scan Order. So if Enforce Scan Order is turned on, it's going to walk you through the warehouse sequentially and require that you scan only the highlighted item. If Enforce Scan Order is turned off, it will allow you to scan any of the records provided that they are on the pick list. So if you get out to that shelf location and you realize that you're going to need to pull all 9 boxes from the shelf location, go ahead and uncheck Enforce Scan Order. That way you can scan any of those boxes in any order. And again, as long as they're part of the pick list, the system is going to allow the scan to occur. If they're not part of the pick list, you'll get a notification on the device indicating so. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off Enforce Scan Order, and then I'm going to actually go over to the warehouse and start my picking. All right, so now I'm out in the warehouse. I've got my scanner. We've got our pick list downloaded to the scanner, and I'm going to begin working. So again, we're just going to follow the pick list along. So the first record is highlighted in blue. That's our file folder 80, and it's telling us the container at the bottom and then the location as well. So we're going to go to the location. I'm looking for A02, which is right down here on the bottom of my rack. And lo and behold, it's the first box on the shelf that I'm looking for. So I'm going to pull that box out, and I'm going to take a quick look for the file folder inside it. So as I'm looking for the file, you can tell right here I do see a barcode on my scanner. But if I want more detail about that item, I could actually tap on that hyperlinked code and it'll execute a live lookup in the database of the details of that record. Now, if you don't have wireless connectivity, it's just going to show you data that was already downloaded to the device. But if you do have wireless connectivity, it gives you the ability to look up some additional information, such as description, contents, or contained in items, if you're dealing with a box in that case. So here you can see the file I'm looking for. It's got an alternate code in there. Its description is Neil Armstrong, the first man on the moon. There's a custom date in there. So again, I can see all that information directly from within my pick list, which is a complete unique feature with Oneil Mobile versus RS Mobile, or certainly versus the old PDT-3100. On RS Mobile, you could only see the short description or the alternate code for a record. In Oneil Mobile, you can see any information that's been data entered against the record. So if you're reliant when you're picking from a box or from an open shelf on data that exists outside of the short description or alternate code field, you can see that information in Oneil Mobile. So back to our box here. So I'm going to open the box up, and of course the first record that I see is my Neil file. So I'm going to just hit the back arrow here to go back to my pick list. I'm going to pull the file and I'm going to scan the barcode of the file folder. Once I do that, you'll see the date and time stamped there, and I can go ahead and return that box to the shelf. So I'm going to put the file over on my cart, close up that box, and stick it right back in the shelf, obviously into the location that it came out of. Now I can use the scanner to go to my next item. So here you can see that the pick list already advanced to the next item on my list. And here we can see it's a file folder. Again, the system's going to tell you in the pick list that you're dealing with a file folder, or you're dealing with a container or a tape. So here we're looking for file folder. Now this one has a little unique barcode on it. It's showing WF00001. Now in my record center, I've configured any file that's created by a web user is going to have a temporary barcode assigned to it that starts with WF for web file. And that tells me in the record center that this is a record that was not indexed. So it's a file that was made for request by the user that's coming out of a box that hasn't been added to the system yet. So here we can see the item. If I tap on that record again, I can see more detail about it. So the description of this file is the Area 51 secret files. There's a from date and a to date in there, a sequence begin and end range. You'll even see there's a long description. So I can tap on long description. It's going to go into the database and look up that information. So in this Area 51 file are the top secret files. There's some close encounters information. Looks like a pretty interesting file. I wonder if we'll find it there. So we're going to close back to the main screen. Again, return to our pick list by hitting that back arrow. And now we're going to look for our box. So we've got our location, and that's right here. Our box is ORC00228. I can see that's on the shelf right here. And I'm going to pull the box out and look for my Area 51 file. Well, after flipping through there, it looks like the file's not there. Now, I can actually record that directly on my pick list. So if I tap the blue space to the right of that barcode, you'll notice the menu bar at the top of the screen will change. Now we can see the barcode of the file folder. We see the reassign button. And if you hit the menu in the top right, you'll see a few options. So things that might happen when you go look for a box would be like we just saw. I opened the box, I looked for the Area 51 file. It wasn't in the box. So I could go in and tap not found on my scanner, and that will, depending on the configuration of my database, go back into the system, remove the item from the work order, add another service to the work order for an unsuccessful file search or something like that, and even remove the item from inventory in the event that it shouldn't exist. There's also the ability to use in research, which would add that file folder to the suspense list so I could look for it later, but continue on with other work on the record center or on the work order. If I click add related, that allows me to add a file that might be related to the previous one. So if you get to a file and there's a volume 1 and volume 2, you might want to add the volume 2 onto the pick list. So you just hit add related, scan that second volume, and it would add it to the pick list and to the work order later on. And of course there's item properties. But going back to the file we couldn't find, we're just simply going to tap not found, and the scanner is now going to show not found instead of a date and time. So it's showing that I did actually go look for that file, but I couldn't find it. And now we're going to move on to our last file. Just like before, this is a file that was data entered by somebody on the web. So I'm going to tap on that barcode so I can see more information about it. So here I'm looking for the Charles Brown file, and I can go back to the main screen. So I'm looking for box 66 in my next location, which is right up here. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that box down, do a quick look, see if I can find the Charles Brown file, and here it is. So I'm going to grab that file, put my box back up on the shelf, and I'll notice when I see the file, there's not a barcode on that file folder yet. So what I'm going to do is actually go ahead and assign a file folder barcode to that. So I'm going to grab some barcodes that I have. So these are just file folder barcodes. I'm going to peel one off and place it on my file folder. As soon as I place that barcode on the file folder, I'm just going to tap again the blue space to the right of my barcode, and I'll see the file folder barcode show up at the top, and there's that reassign button. So when I tap reassign, I'm simply going to scan the new barcode that I placed on the file folder, and you'll see immediately on the device it's registered that the barcode of this file is now changed to the real barcode that I put on it, and you can see the scan date and time. And of course you can see now that 3 of 3 items have been picked. Now if I'm finished with the work here, I could hit the up arrow and that will upload the pick list to my record center. Not a bad idea or a thing to do if you're connected in the warehouse. If you're not, you would just need to get into an area where you have wireless connectivity and upload from that point. But before I upload this, I'm going to actually take us back to the main menu. And what I want to do next in my process is I'm going to scan these records to an outgoing location. One thing to note even before we do that is once you return to the main screen, we can see on our pick list that it shows that we've now picked 2 of 3 items, and there's a not found indicating that all 3 have been dealt with. You'll also see the reassignment there. So it's going to give you a nice summary of everything that you've done within the work order, or rather the pick list validation in this case. So now what I want to do is I want to move these files into my outgoing holding area. So I'm going to go into Record Center Operations. I'm going to pick up my files, and I'm going to go over here to my holding area where I have an outgoing holding location. I'm going to scan that location and then scan my 2 files to show that they are now ready to go out. And then I'll place them there, and I can go do the next thing that I need to, or I can let my driver know that the files have been pulled and are ready to be picked. All of that is good. I can, again, from this screen, I can hit the up arrow. That would upload just the Record Center Operations, or I can hit the back arrow to return to the main screen. And here you'll see I've got my listing of my Record Center Operations at the top there. It shows 2 location scans, and it shows to the right of that the 0/2/0. Again, that's container, file, and tape. So I've scanned 2 files using Record Center Ops. Then I've got the detail of my pick list as well. I'm going to go ahead and just hit the upload from this initial screen. And again, that up arrow at this main screen is going to upload both my Record Center Operations and my pick list. So I'll click upload there. And we'll take care of that process. So now that we've registered that all of those picks have been done, the work has been completed, I've moved my items to the outgoing holding area, the next step in the process would be for the driver to come and get the items. They're going to scan those items to truck validation, so they'll take it to the truck, they'll verify that they have the right thing, and then they'll be able to go out to the customer and make the delivery. So we covered a bit about the work order validation, capturing the signatures and things like that on the pickup process. So I'm not going to go through that again, but what I want to do is just pick up on some other things that we can do within the Record Center. So let's say those file folders are out, they've come back in, the driver picked them up and brought them back into the warehouse. The next thing that I'm going to want to do is put them back into their proper location. So I can go into those items and I can actually use my scanner to create a refile list. So if I hit the menu in the top right, you'll see there's an option in there called Scan Refile, the top option. If I tap on Scan Refile, I can simply scan the barcode of file folders that need to be refiled. Or if I was using a refile location, I could actually scan the location barcode, and the scanner will prompt that I've scanned a location and ask me to add, if I want to add all of the items in that location to my refile list. Now from here, after I've scanned those 2 records, again, you'll see in the top right, there's the menu there for if I just wanted to upload this information. So if I didn't want to create a refile list directly on the device, but rather upload it so somebody could create it from the Record Center or the RS Mobile Com Session grid, I could do that. But typically, since my scanner is going to be wirelessly connected or connected through cellular service, I just want to go ahead and create that list directly from my device. So I'm simply going to hit the up arrow there to upload this and create the refile list. It's going to confirm that that's what I want to do, and then I'm just going to hit OK. Now once I do that, it's uploading that information, looking up the detail about where these items need to go, and returning a refile list to my device. So I can tap download there, and it's going to create a refile list that basically is the opposite of the pick list that we looked at earlier. So here's my refile list. I can see my refile count 0 of 2. To do the work, I'm just going to tap on the refile list, and it's going to bring up the items that are there. So here again, it's going to start based on location order for the item that needs to be refiled first. You'll also notice, subtly different than the pick list, we have this location container file area at the top of our refile list here. So we're going to follow that blue square. So the blue currently is around the location code. So that's telling me that I have to scan the location. So I'm going to go to the shelf, and I'm going to go find that location, and I'm going to scan it. So So I've scanned my location. You'll see immediately it's now telling me the next scan is going to be the container, and it highlights that container in blue. Then I would go find the container and scan that container. If I scan the correct container, it's just going to move over to the file folder. If I scan a container that is not what is expected, the scanner is going to prompt me, and I'll show you that on the next one that we scan. The last thing I'm going to scan is the file folder, so I'm going to go ahead and scan the file folder barcode and insert it right into that box. And again, you could insert the file into the box first and then scan it. That's up to you. The main thing is that you just want to make sure that you're scanning the correct file into the correct box. Now that I've done that, you can see right on the refile list, it has a green check mark and it's moved to my next file folder. So my next file folder I'm going to go find the location. Again, it's showing me that, highlighted in blue at the top. So I find my location and scan it. Once I do that, it moves over to the container. So now I'm going to find the container. Now the container that I need to put it in is the top container here. Just to show you behavior, and this is definitely not your practice. You're not going to want to just randomly scan boxes. I just want to show you the prompts on the device. So if I was to grab the incorrect box and scan it, on the device, it's going to ask if I want to move this file to this particular container. If you were legitimately intending to move it to a different container that belonged to the same account, you can go ahead and hit OK. But otherwise, you're going to notice this warning and you're going to say, oh, I don't have the right container. Just press cancel and then it'll take you right back. So now I'm going to scan the correct box and you'll see it move over to the file folder. I can scan my file folder barcode and insert it into my box. And again, depending on your operations, you may need to go through and actually put the file in a particular order. For me, a lot of times what I'll do is just put any file that I've barcoded at the front of the box, especially if it's a non-barcoded customer typically. That way I know if it's telling me to look for a legitimate barcode, I'm going to be looking in the front of the box. Otherwise, I'll flip through the box files to find it in its particular order. But again, that's up to you and whatever the best practice is in use at your operation. Once I'm done, I'm going to hit the up arrow, and that's going to allow me to upload those refile list details. I'll simply hit upload, and that will clear the refile list off of my device and return me back to the main screen. And of course, as usual, when I uploaded that, it also checked to see if there were assignments, and it's telling me there's no additional assignments that have been loaded for my user. I can press that refresh button if I want to look for more, or I can return to the operations room and await my next assignment. Some other things that I want to talk about on the Oneil mobile device are, again, those items that are featured in the menu in the upper right there. So you have the ability to load a tote. You have the ability to create a 2D RCO label. Both of those are going to require that you have a Zebra ZQ310 printer that you're connecting to, and we'll go ahead and demonstrate that process here in just a minute. We'll also take a look at the ability to do your destruction validation by location, and the other ones, the sort items by work orders, allows you to, when you've picked items, you can use that to identify which work order they go out on, which can help prepping your drivers for their routes be much simpler. And then the destruction validation by location is if you're destroying boxes, files, or tapes, you can scan those items into a location and complete your destruction validations against the work orders on the basis of them being in a location. Let's talk for a few moments about the load tote and scan RCO label options in the mobile device. So when I tap on the menu in the top right, you'll see again in that listing of different options, I've got load tote up at the top, and then I've got create RCO label. Now those will effectively do similar functions. Both are going to allow me to generate a two-dimensional barcode that can be scanned in lieu of scanning several individual items when I get to the customer site or when I'm loading the truck. I can take care of that just with a single scan. Now, load tote is most commonly used when you're dealing with tapes. So you're loading up tapes into a tote that you're going to use to securely transport those records to your customer site. You might do the same with file folders as well, and both of those allow you to use this load tote functionality. The create 2D RCO label or the create RCO label is slightly different in that it's just purely allowing you to generate that two-dimensional barcode without the concept of the tote involved. So when we go into load tote, what you're going to do is you're going to want to set up some basic information. So I can click on the information tags here, and I can add some extra info to the label that I'm going to print. If I want to indicate the work order that this is part of, I could scan the barcode number of the work order or type it into the device. Or if I simply wanted to add a description like red tote, I could enter that in there and press OK. Once I do that, that's now going to associate on the label that I print out the red tote concept. Now I can go ahead and load my tote up with my tapes. So I'm going to pick up my tapes, scan them as they're going in, and then once I've finished with the scanning of the tapes into my tote, I can go ahead and use the mobile printer to, print out that two-dimensional barcode. Now again, the use of Oneil Mobile and a printer is going to require the use of the ZQ310 printer from Zebra currently. Once you have that set up and connected to your device, you'll be able to use that to scan your items for your two-dimensional barcodes or the load tote process that we're doing and carry on to the next step. So now I've finished loading my tote. I'm going to go ahead and close it up. And then I'm going to go ahead and print out a barcode label from my printer. Now in my case for this test, I'm using the sticky back label printer. So once it prints out, I can take it off of my printer. Let me forward it a little bit there. I can peel it off, and then I can go ahead and just stick it on my tote. So again, I might want to use this to seal it or just stick it on wherever it needs to go. And once I've finished printing out the label, the system's going to ask if I want to clear out the scan, so I could potentially load another tote or move on to the next process. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK here, and then hit the back arrow. Now I've loaded my tote, so as I go forward in the process, if I wanted to move items from the tote into an outgoing location as an example, all I have to do is scan that two-dimensional barcode. So I'll do that real quick. So I'm going to go into Record Center Operations, and I'm going to go ahead and scan my outgoing location. And then I'm going to scan that two-dimensional barcode, and the scanner is going to read all 10 barcodes that were part of that QR code or that two-dimensional barcode that was created. Likewise, when I go and complete the delivery, I would go deliver the tote to the person who's my customer contact, and instead of having to open the tote up and scan each item individually, I can simply scan that two-dimensional code and it will complete the process for me. So it's definitely a way to be efficient, to add a little bit more security to the process, because you're making sure that you don't have to open what may be a locked case or a sealed envelope or pouch. When you get to the customer site, you can simply use that 2D barcode label that you created. Again, you can do that either through loading the tote, which is useful if you are in fact using a tote that you want to do. If you just simply wanted to create a two-dimensional barcode label, you could go into the Create RCO label, and the functionality is very similar. It looks almost identical to what we saw in the load tote. You would again go through and scan each individual item. So I'm just going to rescan that two-dimensional barcode that we created, just again to simulate the process. So I've now scanned 10 records. If I needed to scan additionals, I could do that. And then I would simply hit the printer icon when I'm completed with that process and generate a two-dimensional barcode that could be used as we move throughout the process. The most important thing to remember about a two-dimensional barcode is it's a snapshot. It's a point in time. So if you're not certain that this tote is never going to be opened throughout the process, then you may not want to consider using a two-dimensional barcode. Likewise, if you're creating a two-dimensional barcode for file folders that are being delivered to the customer, if they're being delivered in a secure pouch, scan the items, place them in the pouch, seal it, print out your 2D barcode, and place it on the outside of that pouch. If the seal gets broken on the pouch, you might want to tell your drivers, even though there's a two-dimensional barcode on that, go ahead and actually rescan everything that's in the pouch just to verify you're only scanning what actually is being delivered to the customer or handled at that moment in time. So great feature. You just want to be aware of how it works and some of the potential dangers of using it. But again, it's something that can be done easily. However, it does also require that you have a mobile printer connected to your Oneil mobile device. Another great feature that's available to you only if you're using Oneil Mobile is a feature called Destruction Validation by Location. Again, if you go to the main screen in Operations and click the menu in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see towards the bottom the Destruction Validation by Location. Now, when you tap on that, it will take you into an area where you can validate any items that are on destruction work orders just by going to their locations. So it's not uncommon within the Record Center to get a large number of pull requests for destruction from a variety of customers. And generally the best practice is to create a pick list that walks you through your warehouse in a sequential fashion. Shouldn't matter which account you're destroying for. So I'll go through, I'll complete my pick list. Once I've got a pick done, I'm going to scan those locations, or scan those containers rather, to a holding location. So here I've got a location that's configured as DEST1, and I've scanned all of these boxes for destruction that are there. Now what I'm going to do is go into that destruction validation by location, and I'm simply going to scan the location barcode. Now once I do that, it's going to look and do some checks to figure out if there's anything that's potentially a problem. So here you'll see after I scan that, it shows me at the top of the screen that I've scanned location DEST1. There are 7 items in there. Now, you don't see anything listed here because I haven't scanned anything yet. Now, in the event that this location actually had an item in it that was not on a destruction work order, then you would see an error occur at this screen. It would let you know, hey, there's an item on here that is not part of one of the destruction work orders. You should take care of that before you continue on. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and begin scanning the items that are here. So I'm going to scan the barcodes of the items that are on my pallet. And you can see as I've scanned it, it's going through and verifying that it's there, and it's marking everything validated. Again, if there was something that was not in that location, if I tried to scan it, I would get an error. So let me just show you. I'm going to jump over to my full-size rack. Obviously, I'm using smaller boxes for purposes of this training. I'm going to go ahead and scan a box that's on a shelf, not part of a destruction work order. When I scan that, you can hear the beep that the scanner gives you. So it's giving you a different type of beep code, causing you an audio alert to let you know that there's something wrong. Here I can also see that this item is not expected at this location. Do you want to ignore this invalid scan, or do you want to start the entire validation process over? Again, operationally, it's going to be dependent on your facility. Now, in this case, I know the box is over here. I'm going to ignore that because I didn't actually mean to scan it. This is going to, when I upload or complete this process, it's going to remove that scan. It's not showing that I've now destroyed that item. It's just letting me carry on with the process. Otherwise, if I had chosen to restart, it would have wiped out all of my scans, and I would have had to start the whole destruction validation process over. Now, once I'm done, I've verified everything that's there, I can hit the complete button, and this is going to tell me whether or not they've been scanned. Here it's saying they've all been scanned. If you want, you can print out a report, or you can just upload. Now, if I hit print, it's going to go ahead and again allow me to print out a report of what I've printed to that Zebra ZQ310 printer, or whatever printer you have configured with your mobile device. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK there, and it's going to go ahead and print out a listing of the items that I've just certified for destruction using that report. So if I go over and grab my printer here real quick, you can see my report is there. I can peel that off, and again, it's going to show not only the location that was scanned, it's going to show the items that were scanned, and it gives me a spot where I can sign to verify the destruction. So maybe I want to take this and put it in a stack for my manager to review, or I'm going to attach it to the actual work order as I go through and complete the process. But either way, once I've finished with that, now all of these items have been verified as being destroyed, and if I was to go back to the work orders that they were on, I would actually see the validations against the work order. And we're going to actually go ahead and take a look and do that now. So I'll switch back over to the desktop, we'll look up those work orders and take a look at the activity that was recorded against them. Okay, so now we're back at the Record Center. I've logged into operations already, gone to the work order grid, and queried up the 2 destruction work orders that I know were represented by our 7 boxes on that destruction validation we just did. Now, if I open up the work order, I can go right into the charge detail. The charge detail is going to list all the actions that are recorded against that work order. And I just want to show you that those destruction validations were recorded. And we can see right here, the first 5 lines are the destruction validations, and those were sent to this work order by virtue of me doing that destruction validation by location. So after we validated that location, all the items that were destroyed, we hit upload. That sends all those destruct validations back into the database, and we can see them against the work order. If I close out of here and I just cancel out of that order, I open up that second work order again, we'll see some additional destruction validations that were recorded by going to the charge detail. And there you can see the 2 other items that had the destruction validation recorded against them. And as you can see, this is for work order account 2000. The other one was for account 1000. So it doesn't matter who the destruction is for. As long as those items were on a destruction work order, it lets us use the destroy validation by location, and it passes the destruction validation back to the correct work order associated with the destruction of those items. That brings us to the end of the Oneil mobile session of this training. In this section, we covered the following objectives. Again, we set up our Oneil mobile device. We talked about various Oneil mobile features. We completed record center operations to move boxes throughout the warehouse, to refile things on the shelf. We sent tasks to Oneil mobile that included our pick list that we used for the process, as well as sending work orders. We completed the pick list using the Oneil mobile scanner. We also talked about some of the advanced features like not found and add related. We validated work order actions, including pickup validations. We also covered destruction validation and delivery validations. We created refile lists and completed those directly on the Oneil mobile device. We looked at using location audit, and we also completed destruction validation by location using that scanner. And we looked at some of the other features as well. Hopefully by now you have seen the great benefit that Oneil Mobile brings to you. It brings the power of Oneil Cloud or RSSQL directly into your hand, allows you to control the functionality of the warehouse more easily and more efficiently, certainly than our predecessors, RS Mobile or again the PDT 3100. You have more information, you're able to get things accomplished more quickly, and as we'll see in subsequent trainings, you'll be able to leverage things like the Oneil dispatch view so that you can see where your drivers are when they have the Oneil mobile devices on the road with them. If you have any questions about Oneil Mobile, contact your support desk, or you can contact your business development representative.